morning, everybody, and welcome to Expana's Morning Market Roundup for June the 25th. Hope you're having a great day today. This morning, we are happy to have with us Josh and Matt, who are going to share their insights on salmon and chicken. And this morning, we're going to start out with Josh. And Josh, I understand that you're going to present to us today a little bit about the seasonality of sockeye salmon.
Hi, Russ. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Yes, that's correct. Summer is finally here, and with it, sockeye season. And this year, like every other year, there's not a lack of storylines at all for wild sockeye salmon. The last 2 years, we've seen tough times through many of many of the industry for sockeye salmon due to the supply and volume that came in. 2022 was a record-breaking year out of Bristol Bay, and supply was higher than anything that we've seen before. And that led to some issues with inventory levels, with lots of supply readily available and lower prices as a result. This year, things kicked off a little bit better with Alaska Department of Fish and Game's forecast for the sockeye season, which was down considerably, about 20% on average, depending on what area you were looking at. As a result, we saw pricing come out higher than the last 2 years to start and mimic a little bit more of 2021, which wasn't similar to the previous 2 years. So as we can see here, the red line is 2024, much closer to what 2021 looked like. We do see those 2 years, the two previous years, where the supply was very high, forecasts were very high for it. So we had a much better starting point this year when, sockeye still a little bit limited. We start getting, trickles of supply coming in. The demand is increased at that point, but we do tend to see a steady decline shortly thereafter. One of the interesting points is when the decline hit this year. If we take a look at the previous 3 years, it comes a little bit later in the season. That coincides with Bristol Bay. Bristol Bay is usually the beginning of the real volume where we're exponentially higher than the trickle that we see at the start of the season. So that's when those prices really begin to dip. One of the interesting things in the wild sockeye markets is the way that it levels off. If we look here, we get relatively range-bound prices as the season progresses. That's typically due to the fact that processors will freeze when it hits a certain price point, save some of that sockeye for later on in the year. Replenish that frozen supply. However, this year there's a little bit of a concern because many of the processors, due to the poor 2 previous years, are under pressure from their banks to generate cash flow a little bit quicker and not carry those inventories. So some market participants are speculating and concerned that we could see lower levels, even though the forecast this year is expected to be much lower than what we've seen the previous 2 years. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. Some market participants are also looking ahead to the frozen season, which would come after, fresh is over and we're just into frozen sockeye at that point. And we could see firmer prices there just because there's less freezing, as a result. So there could be an expansion and contraction there on those markets. Needless to say, it'll be, interesting. We should have Bristol Bay, really kicking off either this week or next week, within the next 2 weeks or so. And, we'll keep an eye on it and keep you updated on what's going on there.
And thank you, Josh. Certainly, liquidity, cash flow as it relates to frozen inventories is a topic that is not unique to just the salmon industry. It'll be interesting to see where we go next time we have a conversation about sockeye salmon. Thanks, Josh, as always, for your insight. And that brings us to Matt Bizzardo. And Matt, boy, it sure has been a crazy year for the chicken market. And you're going to focus in today a little bit on the boneless, skinless chicken breast. Good morning.
Yes, thanks, Russ. We were just talking this morning about the ridiculousness associated with boneless this year and just how kind of wacky things have been. I mean, we got on a tear related to value in the beginning of the year, and it really hadn't subsided up to the point that we find ourselves in. A couple weeks ago, there was some pressure, which most people have come to expect. But it really wasn't what most seasonal predictions would tell us. I mean, the 10-year average drop is somewhere in the 9.5 to 10%. The jumbo boneless values did fall just about 8%. This year, but the more surprising portion is what's happening this last week, where you had heat-related issues come into play. There's a heat wave that cut across much of the country that caused some weight issues, some DOA issues that on arrival, and other mortality things. Disease obviously is still playing a huge part in the industry, where people just don't really realize how much production they're going to have. These processors, they can see what's on paper on what they're supposed to have, but then when it comes down to it, when the slaughter facility comes in play, they don't know what they're going to have. So everything that they have on paper is kind of up in the air at this point. And all of a sudden, this strength has started to creep back into this market, and here we are, week of the twos. A little over a week before 4th of July, and the boneless market is slowly ticking upward. We speak with some of these market participants, some of these buyers, and this is normally a time where they start to take advantage of the lower pricing. And they're saying, what is going on with this market? And really all of the above that I kind of explained are coming into this. And like I said, a little over a week, 4th of July, there's always some wackiness associated with the market when we come into a holiday. This year, 4th of July is on a Thursday. So there's going to be quite a bit of jockeying, given some down days with production schedule on the processing side, the further processing side, and then people are just trying to figure out what the buyers will need. Even the buyers are trying to figure out what they'll need. So it has caused a bit of hesitancy, even with this up market, but all things considered, there's still a good bit of optimism and bullishness associated with boneless, which just is almost never the case at this point in the year. So it's really something to keep an eye on. We're kind of glued in here trying to figure out what's next, and as most people are, and we're going to be up to date on things as they progress.
I think we have a chart to show our audience, just to show exactly what you're speaking about here. It certainly has been a super crazy year for the boneless market. And of course, the high end of the last 10 years is a 10-year chart we see displayed there in the middle of June. And you can see that slight uptick that you were speaking about, Matt. So time will tell, particularly with the summer heat, typically brings on some bird loss as well as lack of gain on the weight side. So it'll be very interesting as we go forward to see where this takes us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's certainly something to watch.
Well, with that, Matt, Josh, always appreciate your time and the education that our audience gains. This has been Expana's Morning Market Roundup for Tuesday, June the 25th. I hope everybody has a great day.